You're here to pick up the pieces. This is Warriors Wrap Up on 95.7 The Game.
And the Golden State Warriors, off to a rip-roaring start to begin the season, continue to use that depth. No game, as so far at least, needed more than tonight as they beat the New Orleans Pelicans by a final score, flipping the script from first half to second half. 124-106. This game looked like it was going to be a Pelicans blowout, and instead it was the Warriors that blew out the Pelicans. Hello, everyone. Warriors wrap up on 95.7 The Game. Evan Giddings with you live from Chase Center after the Warriors. Again, they were down 17 points at the end of the first quarter. They were down by as many as 20 points in this basketball game. And by shooting 54% from three-point range the next two quarters, Steve Kerr making some adjustments at halftime, and the Warriors doing what they did the first two games of the season to much more inferior opponents than the Pelicans, just blowing the doors off them in the final half of this basketball game. 77 points. They limit them to 55 in the final two quarters as defense turns to offense. What was cold hands turns to hot hands. And I think everyone basically just turned this game right on its head. From the first quarter, it looked like this was going to be one of those games where you wonder, oh my gosh, no Curry, no Wiggins. We got a problem. Code red, panic mode for the Golden State Warriors. And I thought with their defense, specifically in that second quarter, we can get deeper into it, but I thought defense was really where this thing was kick-started. While the threes weren't really falling, I think they went 2 for 13 in the first quarter. They continued to shoot, but they ended up getting better shots based off the stops that they were able to make. They pretty much turned the Pelicans into a two-man band. Like, Zion Williamson had 31 in this game. He was a minus 14. Brandon Ingram had 30 points in this game, a lot of it in that first half. It looked like he was unstoppable. I think he scored 10 straight to open up the game for the Pelicans. He ended up with 30. He was a minus 10. Now, a lot of that is in the second half of this basketball game, but I think it goes to show that the Warriors are a team that right now is they don't care about the names on the back of the jerseys for other teams. And they get the Pelicans tomorrow night, and so you get a back-to-back. That'll test the Warriors' stamina. It'll also test how much the Pelicans are able to make adjustments, as Willie Green, I believe, to be a pretty good head coach. And I think they did a lot of things that I found interesting tonight. Like the Pelicans shot 53% from the floor, 41% from three, and a little over 70 from the free throw line. That's usually a pretty good mark. However, 22 turnovers forced by the Golden State Warriors in this game. That's what I'm talking about when I see defense. So I know, look, we're going to get into the hot shooting performances. Buddy Hield on fire. Lindy Waters III with his breakout game. Podziemski with 19 in a game-high 34 minutes. Jonathan Kuminga, who we have to talk about, responded to his benching with, I think, the best game of the season. And the Warriors as a whole making 21 threes. All of that is great. But what they were able to do, plus 15 in the turnover category, and the fact that they didn't give up on the three ball. Like, this was a start of the basketball game that I felt like did not bode well for the Warriors offensively. They were clunky. They were playing iso ball. There was no real rhythm to what they were doing. And I thought they basically just stuck with it, but they also were able to get into the grill of the Pelicans, and a lot of that was Gary Payton II, I thought, was a big part of that defensively. Though he didn't end up playing a lot in this basketball game. Lindy Waters III, I thought, jolted this basketball team, and as evident by his game-high plus 26, like he was probably the best player on the floor. I know that Buddy Hield ended up with 28 points, 25 of which in the second half. Podziemski played the most minutes. I think he pretty much played like a Curry rotation tonight. And then Jonathan Kuminga, I thought, was very good. Draymond was a plus 15, but he wasn't in during the biggest stretch to me in that beginning or tail end of the third quarter, beginning of the fourth quarter. But the Warriors as a whole were able to put the clamps on the Pelicans beginning pretty much at the beginning of the second quarter. And they turned their defense into basically just a running type of ball game. They made it an up and down game. And I thought it helped them break out of their funk. They got a lot of young players that were playing tonight. And so I think part of it was just seeing the ball go in. And once they started playing with confidence, this was the Warriors team that was pretty much impossible to stop, at least if you're the New Orleans Pelicans. So, again, 53%, 41% from three for the Pelicans. But the two mathematical categories, at least as you look at team stats that turned this game, number one, I think it was turnovers, plus 15 there. But then, again, the math is in your favor when you get up as many threes as it feels like the Warriors are going to try and do every single night. Again, they were 2 of 13 in the first quarter. From the second, or the beginning of the second quarter, to the start of the fourth quarter, they shot 54%. They made 13 threes, and of course they made 8 in the fourth quarter when things were just kind of over and they were able to get easy looks. But 21 threes in this game. I mean, anytime you're going to be able to get, the plus 36, plus 12 total threes, plus 36 in terms of points off the three-point shot. The Warriors have, of course, used a three-pointer as a weapon in the past, but they are just mathematically dominating teams. And it doesn't matter that they have not really been able to get to the free throw line. Nobody's going to care that the Pelicans shot 11 more free throws in this game. No one's going to care that the Warriors were actually a lower field goal percentage in this game than the New Orleans Pelicans because they got 22 more shots. They took 24 more three-pointers than the Pelicans. And that's what happens when you're getting extra possessions because of turnovers and also being able to at least match the Pelicans in terms of offensive rebounds. So I thought the Warriors did a really good job of just sticking with their process. What's worked to this point that led them to a 6-0 preseason start, obviously a 2-0 start, kind of was a bit skeptical of the opponents. And then Sunday against the Clippers, when you lose Wiggins and Curry, Melton obviously already out, where's the offense going to come from? Well, it's going to come from the three-point ball. And a lot of it in the first half, you would think that when you say big three-point performances, in the first half, it was not Buddy Hield. Buddy Hield couldn't throw a rock into the ocean in the first half. But in the second half, in fact, it wasn't even he, as Steve Kerr benched him for Lindy Waters III to begin that second half. It was the Waters-led three-point barrage along with Brandon Pajemski, who knocked down a couple in that third quarter. And then Buddy Hield began to get it going. He hit 2 threes at the tail end of the third quarter, including one with 2 seconds left. They gave the Warriors, I think it was either an 11 or a 9-point lead, or 8-point lead, going into the fourth quarter. And then the doors just blew wide open. I mean, Buddy Hield was sensational in the second half. And it's like he just needs to see one ball to go down in order to feel comfortable. And the Warriors, I think that was kind of the story of their second half. Once they started to see some shots fall, they already knew that defensively the Pelicans were not going to run away from them. And I think that is because their two best players, Zion Williamson and Brandon Ingram, were not killing them from beyond the arc and don't generally kill you from beyond the arc. The fact that Brandon Ingram took 6 threes in this game would be above his average on most nights. He made 3 of them, 2 which in the first quarter, but after that he was pretty silent. The Warriors were completely okay with Brandon Ingram just getting to his spot, taking his twos, chucking, and if he was going to score 30, he was going to score 30 because nobody else in that basketball game for the Pelicans was able to get it going. Obviously, they were down DeJounte Murray. Obviously, they were down Trey Murphy III, who's probably their best three-point shooter and volume shooter. But again, the Warriors were down the best shooter to ever walk planet Earth in Steph Curry. They were down Andrew Wiggins, who is probably their second-best scorer, at least you would assume before Buddy Hield starts to torch people from left and right. And I think overall the Warriors right now, they answered quite a few questions tonight. And the Pelicans are not a bad basketball team whatsoever. In my opinion, the Clippers' loss was one that, look, it's going to happen. You're going to put it behind you. But to bounce back in the way that they did tonight, and we'll see how much they can continue tomorrow when they're not going to have as fresh legs against a team that they just kicked their ass. The Pelicans split up in Portland. I didn't think they looked particularly good to start this season, and they've dealt with their own injuries. But the Warriors are not going to have Steph tomorrow. They're probably not going to have Wiggins, although he hasn't officially been ruled out, and TBD on DeAnthony Melton. So I thought this was a big momentum and specifically confidence-building Warriors win tonight that lets me know a couple of things. But I'll get to those in a moment. Want to make sure that everybody gets in on the action at 888-957-9570. Already chiming in on the Comcast business text line from 510. Pleasant Hill Pete says the Warriors have the best depth in the West. Well, that's pretty hard to argue after a night like tonight. From the 650, Pods was hella good. I agree. But he needs better shot selection. I actually thought Pods was pretty patient tonight. He got a lot of shots up. But it's funny when he chooses his spots. Like, the shots that you expect him to take, he generally doesn't. And then the shots that you're wondering, that's a strange look, are the ones that typically go up. 650, Moody, I'm with you. I thought he's probably the most understated player in this game. Got the start over Jonathan Kuminga. And while it was not a kind first 6 minutes for Moody, I don't think he played as poorly as maybe some of the numbers showed. Like, he was a minus 12 in the first quarter, but that's because BI just had it going. And I'm not sure anybody on the Warriors was going to stop Ingram with how aggressively he started. And I was glad to see Moody end on a high note. I mean, he shot the hell out of the basketball when he came back into the game for his second stint, hit that corner three right in front of the Warriors bench, which probably should have been an and one, and then also hit a couple threes late in the fourth quarter. He ended up with a very inconspicuous 14 points in 17 minutes. And again, because of the opening stretch, that's why you would see him being a -7. But in my opinion, the plus-minus kind of lies in regards to Moses Moody tonight. But 888-957-9570, if you want to call in, please let us know what's going on with the Warriors in your eyes right now. Because the depth has been the calling card of the offseason, of the preseason, and now apparently of the regular season. You're down your top two traditional scorers. I know Buddy Hield has led the way so far, but in most seasons, it's probably Curry and Wiggins. I mean, that's where the offense is going to run through. Buddy Hield doesn't need the ball, sort of similar to Klay Thompson, but you didn't expect it. Like, Buddy Hield, I'll just put it like this. Last season, Buddy Hield, he played 84 games, miraculously, after getting traded from Indiana to Philly. Buddy Hield had 8 20-point games last season. So it's not like he can't fill it up. But Buddy Hield is a scorer. But Buddy Hield now has 3 20-point games in his first 4 contests as a Warrior. Like, Buddy Hield is playing and scoring at a rate that he hasn't for the past couple of seasons. And that's one of the reasons why I do believe him when he said, I think it was after the Utah game, that this is the easiest basketball he's played since college. It looks like it. And it really just takes him 1 or 2 to get going. At one point in this game, I think he was 1 for 5 from 3. I don't know if that can be right, because that means he made his last 6. But it was something along those lines. He was either 1 for 4, 1 for 5. And it was like, not only did he didn't miss, again, he's not Klay Thompson. He's certainly not Steph Curry. But the elite shooters, and Buddy Hield, whether you think poorly of him or not, he is. He's a 40% career three-pointer shooter. He is an elite three-point shooter. You can tell they got it going on when the ball's not touching the rim. And I want to say the last three-pointer of the third quarter, there was nothing but nylon. Everything in the fourth, if it was going up, it was going in. I mean, he might have touched rim twice on his last 5 3-point makes, and it did not take him very long to get locked in, because Buddy Hield, again, that's a tale of two halves. I think he had 3 points in the first half. He had 25 in the second half, and is a big reason why the Warriors ran away with this basketball game 124-106. All right, let's start with our calls. 888-957-9570 is the number. Evan Giddings with you on Warriors Wrap-Up live from Chase Center after the Dubs pick up their 3rd win of the season. 3-1, and the Pelicans lost number 2, 2-2. They'll both see each other tomorrow. But let's start with Al in Alameda. Al, what's going on, man? You're on Warriors Wrap-Up here on 95.7 The Game.
Hi. Thank you for taking my call. Here's my question here is, I know... hello? Can you hear me?
What's up, Al? Yeah, I got you.
Yes,
what's up,
hi.
man?
My question here, let's say if Curry's playing right now and we're down by 20 or 18, okay, he's just playing, do you think we could overcome this comeback? The way, I know he could shoot and everything. He's at that point that he gets hurt, and he's at that age right now, okay, and he does have turnovers. Like the last time I watched him, he must have 3 or 4. I mean, he's a great player. Okay, don't get me wrong. But the player that we have right now, I mean, they're running back and forth. They're playing defense. Buddy Hield, Waters, okay? And, I mean, they're fun to watch right now. I know we lost the last game, and we ran into Clippers. But I just wanted to know if Kerr comes back, is he going to play the same way, and who's going to be sitting down? Okay, and also, I love Klay as much. I was I was in love with this guy here, but he wasn't the same in the past 2-3 years. But if he was playing with us right now, you think we would be 3-1 right away? I just can't see him, running like that, like the way these guys are running right now. These young legs, Waters, all this, Brzezinski. So please give me an update on this. If these old players are playing, they're going to be the same like we're seeing right now. I know it's only 4 games or 5 games.
Thanks, Al. No, a lot to unpack there. On the Curry point, I hope if I don't misconstrue your point about Curry, do the Warriors come back down 20? Again, they were down 20 this basketball game. Like, they were getting outplayed. They were getting ran out of the gym in the first quarter. Do they win this game if Curry's back? With this team, yeah, I think they do. It looks different. But I think that this is more of a team win than an individual win. What I mean by that is, I think this is the kind of game that the Warriors get rolled last year. This Warriors team last season, they get rolled. Like this Pelicans group with that kind of confidence after the end of the first quarter, I think they just continued to dominate Golden State. And not that the Warriors wilt by any means, but there wasn't as much buy-in to me to the process of what they're trying to do each of the past 2 seasons. And again, I think you're totally right, Al, that defense is where this game changed. And that's why I highlighted it right off the top. The fact that they forced, and actually they went back and added another 23 turnovers. Zion Williamson, though he had 31 points, he turned the ball over 7 times in this game. And a lot of it was because of the Warriors' front line. I thought Trace Jackson-Davis kind of had it, a little bit of a quiet game. He only played 17 minutes. Draymond Green ended up playing 29. He was pretty good on Zion. Kevon Looney off the bench, doing as good of a job as any, banging with a big boy. So they forced turnovers and they got stops. That's what changed this game, along with Lindy Waters III. Now, this is a player that I personally have targeted this offseason. Now, I didn't think he was going to be able to have a game like this. I'm not going to call myself Nostradamus or anything. But I did think that Lindy Waters was going to play for this team. And actually, I was a little disappointed that he wasn't involved in the rotation to start. But I understand when you're trying to play 12 guys. So I was very glad that Lindy Waters got a crack tonight. And to me, that's where the game changed. Now, it changed along with the defensive pressure that was forced by the second unit. If you look in that second quarter, from the 5:45 mark to the 2:01 mark of the second quarter, the Warriors went on a 13-3 run. You look at Jonathan Kuminga, Brandon Pajemski, Gary Payton II, Kevon Looney, and Lindy Waters III. To me, that 5-man lineup did a pretty damn good job of basically taking defense and then turning into consistent looks. Lindy Waters had a quick 9 points off the bench. He was on the boards. He had 4 assists in this basketball game. I thought he did a pretty good job of staying in front of and really staying attached to the hip. I think Lindy Waters as a shooter himself understands how to at least make things difficult on someone like C.J. McCollum, who is probably the Pelicans' best three-point marksman coming into this basketball game. They don't have Murray. He's not efficiency-wise, not a great three-point shooter, but he can get them up. And then Trey Murphy III is their best three-point shooter, both of which were unavailable tonight. But Lindy Waters, I thought, when he had to be marked on McCollum, did a pretty good job on him. He's a smart player, and I think that, again, he, along with the rest of this team, have bought into what Steve Kerr is trying to do. And Steve Kerr is much maligned and has been over the last couple of years for his rotations and what players he's choosing and where he's going with certain guys and how he's using certain players. And trust me, if this game had gone south, if this had been like the first quarter, all 4 quarters, we would have been taking a lot of negative calls. Number one, because you'd be wondering if this team and this depth is actually worth anything, but also because of the pre-game decision that Steve Kerr made to bench Jonathan Kuminga. Now, I thought the Shams Charania tweet, along with Kendra Andrews, was, I don't know, it was a little aggressive. They had a big plastered graphic with the word benched. It was like like, they were sending this guy to the dungeon or something. I mean, Jonathan Kuminga, by the way, he played 28 minutes, season high, scored 17 points, season high. After his first quarter, much like the rest of the Warriors, he turned his game around. I thought J.K. played really well tonight. And the play that stands out to me, which was by far the most impressed I've been with him so far on the young year, was in transition. It was after he was marked on McCollum, blocked him at the rim, and then it looked like he was attempting to go coast to coast, but he kind of just hung in midair, levitated, let the defender come to him, and then dumped a nice little alley-oop pass to Trace Jackson Davis, which, by the way, was TJD's only basket of the night. So that to me was the kind of two-way play that Jonathan Kuminga has the ability to make, and just simply needs more opportunity to show that he can do it consistently. But I think that once he saw a couple go down, again, like the rest of the team, his confidence began to build, and their trust and buy-in to what Steve Kerr's getting them to do offensively. It starts with the defensive end. It starts with them getting stops, but then trusting that if they get enough threes up, if they move the ball, if they move without the ball, that it is going to find them and the points will take care of themselves. 124 is not an insignificant amount, and with that, I was impressed. All right, let's go out to San Francisco. Again, 888-957-9570 is the number. Warriors wrap up 95-7 the game. Evan Giddings with you live at Chase Center. Let's talk to Frank. Frank Cam, if we can. What's up, Frank? How we doing?
Hey, what's up, Evan? E-Money, Cash
Sir.
Money, just shout out to Buddy Hield. 3 points in the first half. I had him on Prize Picks, 3 slips.
Yeah,
I
boy.
thought, man, I might have to put him on the batting list because he is ice cold. And then he must have heard me because he went off second half, 3 slips, cash. Shout out, Buddy Hield. Thank you.
Right on, Frank. Well, I'm glad you got to make a little money. Yeah, Buddy Buckets was, I think he was symbolic of basically how this game turned, right? I mean, in the first quarter, it looked a lot like Sunday, and there are going to be those games. Like, I don't know, we were talking about this on Warriors this week on Saturday. One of the reasons I feel like Buddy Hield is a little better suited to come off the bench is because of that firecracker ability. Like, when he's a sixth man, and at full strength, he might be a sixth man. I don't know. He might stay in the starting lineup. I'm not sure. But he can win you a game with what he gives you, basically just gravy, being able to hit 5 or 6 threes on a given night. Tonight, they needed him to score. I mean, tonight you were wondering where points were going to come from with Steph being out, with Wiggins being out, and Buddy Hield's been the leading scorer for the Warriors throughout the first 4 games. So I was impressed with Hield, but again, it all came in a very short period of time. Like, he scored 25 points in the second half, and largely in the final 3 minutes of the third until the end of his stint in the fourth quarter. So he did damage in a finite period, and it was very Clay-like. But it's also very Buddy-like. Again, we haven't watched a ton of Buddy Hield because he's been in Sacramento, he's been in Indiana, he's been in Philly, he's kind of bounced around some teams that are competitive or not. But Buddy can score. Like, that's what he does. This is his 9th season. He's averaged 20 points in an NBA season before. It's never been for a good team, but right now he is averaging 20 points, more than 20 points a game for a team that appears to be pretty decent. So I've been impressed with what I've seen from Buddy Hield so far. Let's go to Jesse. Jesse's in San Francisco. What's up, Jess? How are we feeling after the win?
Oh my God, Evan, I'm feeling great. I was out there at Thrive City with the homies. It felt like a little bit of vintage Roar Cool action. We got $25 tickets. We're there.
Hey.
Loving it. Honestly, after the first quarter, I was sweating a little bit. I thought I was just out there to support the boys, but, I came in looking to see something from Lindy, looking to see something from Pods, from Moon, how the guys were going to stand up and represent the blue and gold while Steph and Wiggs were out. And honestly, I could not have been happier from what I saw from the guys. Buddy had a tough showing out in the first half, but absolutely turned it up. Moody didn't get that many minutes, but was electric as always. And, Pods just had a lights-out performance from start to finish. So, I could not have been happier from what I saw from the guys tonight, and love to see, the gel of the team without the Steph minutes. We've been talking a lot about that for years. Mm-hmm. How is the team going to perform without Steph? Wow, what a performance without Steph today. And, Draymond didn't get ejected. I kind of thought he might be without Steph. A lot of the times he doesn't like playing without Steph, but he kept his cool, played great D against Zion, great defense across the board. Gary Payton was balling out. The whole squad was doing great. And big shout-out to Lindy Waters. Man, I love to see that guy ball.
A hell of a call, Jess. I'm with you, especially on the first part. Yeah, again, it was in the first quarter. It was like, oh, we're just here for the vibes, and there's going to be a schedule loss. We'll get back tomorrow, and maybe we'll get Wiggins. Maybe Melton will be healthy. Let's see if we can beat these boys and take one of two. No. In that second quarter, it was like, oh my God, these Warriors they're for real. And again, it was under the umbrella of 2 30-point games from the New Orleans Pelicans. If I told you that if I told you that B.I. was going to get 30 and Zion was going to get 31 tonight, and Curry's out, Wiggins is out, Melton's out, I think a lot of Warriors fans would say, yeah, let's try and win on Wednesday. Let's try and win on Wednesday. Well, the Warriors, they tried to win tonight. And the other part you mentioned about Steph. So Steph has had a quote that's gone viral, and a lot of people thought that he was taking a shot at Clay, right, when he talked about this team having healthy egos. I never took it like that. Number one, because I don't think that Curry's that kind of person. And from everything that I've experienced covering this team for 2 years, even if he felt like that, he would never say it. And I don't think he does. So that's one. Secondly, to me, Lindy Waters III is who Curry is talking about and epitomizes what a healthy ego is. Lindy Waters did not play until tonight. Lindy Waters has been on the outside looking in of a 12-man rotation. The only reason that Lindy Waters III played this evening is because 3 guys were hurt. He probably would have been buried on the bench, and Kerr even told him that after saying a couple days ago that Lindy Waters III he would feel comfortable starting with. And Steve Kerr is a man of his word. He didn't start the game with Waters. He started the second half with Waters. And while the Warriors had closed the gap and they'd made it a basketball game, Lindy Waters III is where this game changed. I never thought I'd utter those words this season. However, because of his professionalism, because of his proficiency, and because of his ability, Lindy Waters III helped win the Warriors this basketball game. He came in and was ready in the second quarter. A flurry, quick 9 points. He was grabbing rebounds. He was defending. He was moving the ball. And he played within the flow. That is the one place where the plus-minus does not lie tonight. Plus 26 game-high, Lindy Waters III. He helped the Warriors, and he was the catalyst for them winning this basketball game tonight from going down 20 to essentially winning by 20. And that's the kind of buy-in that the Warriors, I think, have on this team. And I think when Curry's talking about healthy egos, knowing that you are NBA caliber, knowing that you have ability, and you are one of 12 or 13 on a given night, it doesn't mean that you're bad that you don't play. It means that you have to stay ready. That's what I think Steph Curry is talking about when he says having a healthy ego, and it was epitomized tonight by Lindy Waters III because he was ready, and he was ready to step in and, most importantly, help the Warriors turn a game that was not going their way on its head against a pretty decent opponent in the New Orleans Pelicans. So shout out to Lindy Waters III, and that is, I think, where Curry is trying to get to. He's not taking a shot at number 11. He's talking about what this team needs to have for the remainder of the season for it to be successful. And on that note, I want to line up the phone lines. If you got a comment, if you want to talk about this game, if you want to talk about Lindy Waters III, a lot of people will be talking about that before the game, but we are talking about it now. 888-957-9570. We'll step aside. On the other side, we have our Crash in the Board segment. I also want to hear from Steve Kerr, if we have that sound available to us on the other side as we roll on here live from Chase Center on Warriors Wrap-Up. Evan Giddings with you on 95.7 The Game. Again, 888-957-9570. We got text 3 in the Comcast Business text line. If you got a comment, please call in. We are taking your calls at 888-957-9570. Warriors Wrap-Up is back after this, live from Chase Center.
Navien tankless water heaters, the proven leader in condensing technology. Request a Navien because you deserve the...
Now back to Warriors Wrap Up on 95.7 The Game.
Evan Giddings with you live from Chase Center. The great Tim Roy. So great to hear him back on the airwaves this time of year, as always. Really for the next 5, hopefully maybe even 6 months if we're counting our chickens before they hatch. But a big reason after Game 4 the Warriors are 3-1 was that man you heard in the highlight, Lindy Waters III. He just had one of the best lines I've ever heard at the podium, which was, as the reporter asked him, how does it feel to step into your spot? Again, like what I was talking about prior to the break, just being ready. Staying confident, staying ready, staying selfless. That, to me, is the definition of a healthy ego that Curry was actually talking about, not Klay Thompson. And Lindy Waters III said, I got a strap on me. I just wake up and I can shoot it no matter if I'm playing or if I'm not. I realize it's only 4 games, and if you want to call in and tell me to pump the brakes, feel free, 888-957-9570. I'm not about to predict that the Warriors are going to go on some miraculous championship run, but all I'm going to say is the vibes are really good around this basketball team right now, and they have been. I feel like a lot of people are waiting for the shoe to drop, and look, I have my reservations about how deep or far this team can go. I think before the season I had them at about the same amount of wins as last year, but I felt like it was going to look different. I'm not willing to move off the 46 wins mark yet, but a win like tonight gives you, and I think the Warriors more importantly, a lot of confidence that you can go win a game without Steph. Last year, Steph Curry missed 8 games. It was probably the healthiest he's been since his mid-20s. But the Warriors were 3-5 in games that he missed. And I haven't gone through all the opponents, but the Pelicans aren't a bad team. And yes, they were dealing with their injuries, just like the Warriors are. DeJounte Murray, their big prize possession from the offseason was out. Trey Murphy III, who got a bag, unlike Kuminga, was out. And the Warriors beat them, down 2 of their top, I would say, 3 or 4 guys, depending on where you put Wiggins. But also Melton is a guy that the Warriors, he hasn't played and shot it very well to begin the season, but they're expecting him to contribute. And I think he helps them defensively. And the Warriors still defended at a high level tonight. They forced 23 turnovers. They still shot it well from three-point range. They made 21 threes. This is a team that, and that was one of my questions in Warriors Live, was how would they continue to get those shots up? Could they make them at an efficient clip? And then also defensively, how this thing was going to look, especially when we got the news that 3 of the starting lineup spots would need to be filled because Wiggins, Curry, out, JK got benched. So they responded with Pods, Moody, as well as Hield. Hield did not play very well in the first half. Lindy Waters III basically replaced him going into the third quarter until Hield eventually found his stroke and got it going. Moody, I thought, was solid and consistent. Probably what you want from somebody starting in that opening lineup, though he got torched defensively. The Warriors as a whole got torched defensively. I think Moody just probably caught the brunt of it. But the 510, thank you, on the Comcast Business text line. I think this stat is indicative of how much the game began, or the way that it began, and the way that it ended. Buddy Hield started 1 for 9. He finished 9 for 9. It was a flurry. And really, I think it was an infectious feeling that has, again, it was permeating through the Portland and Utah game. But those teams aren't very good. The Clippers game, that's one that, you wonder how much to take from it. This is also a game you wonder how much to take from it because the Warriors do have to back it up tomorrow night. And why not get greedy? I mean, going 1-1, if you asked me earlier today, and we were on earlier, I was on with Matt Steinmetz, and we were discussing, okay, well, if the Warriors can go 1-1 against the Pelicans, to me that is a win, right? Because you're down Curry, you're down Wiggins, you're down Melton. If you can win tomorrow night, that gives me a lot of confidence that this thing might just be for real, that there is some sustainability behind the depth that the Warriors have preached and promised so far to begin this regular season. And the man who's been preaching that, Steve Kerr, if we have it, Cam, was at the podium not too long ago. Here's what he had to say about the Warriors' 124-106 win against the New Orleans Pelicans. We'll get that for you in just a minute. But again, Steve Kerr, you also got to tip your cap to him so far with what he's done this season. Again, 4 games. They started 5-1 last year. They started 6-2 last year. But for Steve Kerr to get the buy-in that he has so far and to be able to make a decision like benching Jonathan Kuminga, but still, again, trying to figure out the best way to use Kuminga. We talked about it on Warriors This Week on Saturday. How would the Warriors address the Kuminga conundrum? And to me, it has to do more so with the Wiggins and Kuminga pairing, because I think right now they're in sort of similar places. But how would the Warriors navigate that? And I think they broached it probably when they didn't need to, right? This is an obvious night where Kuminga is going to have to start, and he's going to have to play a lot of minutes. But instead, Steve Kerr opted, I think, to do what was best for Kuminga, and that's pair him with a grouping coming off the bench that is a little shorter, and can provide a little more shooting. So I thought J.K. played pretty well after his first stint. Cam, do we have Kerr by chance? All right, let's go to the podium right now. Steve Kerr in its entirety talking about the Warriors' near 20-point win against the Pelicans. Here he is. Well, you heard it. You heard it there. I mean, he's a good basketball player. You know, Lindy Waters the third. That was the biggest reason why the Warriors changed the trajectory of this game from being down 20 to winning by 18 points and basically running away with it with a 77-point second half. I thought the team basically took the baton from Lindy, and again, he was a guy that Steve Kerr's kind of joking, but I don't know. Maybe he is going to play 13. I think he played 9 tonight in the first quarter. He ended up playing 10. You know, if you include the GP2 minutes, he played 8. And then I thought Kerr was able to kind of, you know, get him out when he needed. but the Warriors shot 46% from three, and Lindy Waters is a big part of that. He also will bring us to our Crashing the Board segment, brought to you by Chilton Auto Body, the Bay Area leader in collision repair. It wasn't just the threes, wasn't just the plus 26, it wasn't just the 21 points. It was 8 rebounds from Lindy Waters III. He was crashing the boards because he also had 3 offensive rebounds in this game in what has been probably the best game in his NBA career. This is something that I was looking up a little bit earlier, but Lindy Waters, so he's had 3 20-point games, or pardon me, 2 20-point games before this. One was in his rookie season, and one was in his sophomore season. But you got to go back to 2021 22, and then 22-23. Last year with the Thunder, he played 38 games. He did not have a single 20-point game. He has one in basically the first time he gets ample minutes for the Golden State Warriors. So that is, again, the definition of staying ready for your moment. And I thought Kerr was, he's spot on. Like, he knows how to play. It also goes to show just how, honestly, how impressive the developmental system is in Oklahoma City. Like, Lindy Waters didn't play for that team. Lindy Waters averaged 7.5 minutes per game. He was shot, 43%. He got threes up whenever he got in games, but he largely played garbage time. And so he's also 27 years old and is not necessarily a big name. Went to Oklahoma State, but, was not a guy that just immediately came into the league, even as an undrafted free agent, and got his time. 24-year-old rookie. Now 27 years old with the Warriors, and hopefully he's found and been able to carve out a role for himself because I think he deserves to play. The question is, will he be able to find time once the Warriors are at full strength? But again, it's great to know that the Warriors have buy-in and players like Lindy Waters III that can step in and step up when someone like Steph or Wiggins or Melton, or all three of them on a night like tonight, are out. The other big storyline as we kind of wind down here from the game tonight was obviously I think it was the second to last question from Slater to Kerr, and it was about Jonathan Kuminga. And that is a subject that absolutely needs to be broached because he was benched. Although, again, the way that Sharania framed it, and I know he's not doing this. He's got a graphics team, and ESPN is trying to make a big deal about it and go viral. But the way that it was framed is him being benched in all capital letters, like he got traded or something, or like there was some breaking news. Just like, yeah, he's going to the bench, technically being benched, but he played the most minutes he had this season, and he scored 17 points. This was what I was talking about before on Warriors Live. This was supposed to be a Kuminga game. This is the game that when Wiggins is out, Curry is out, he naturally is the person that probably is the first scoring option. Now, the only reason I wouldn't consider Hield that, even though he scored the most points tonight and has scored the most total points in the first 4 games for the Warriors, is Hield doesn't really need the ball. Like, you don't have to really call plays for Buddy Hield. He is similar to Klay Thompson in that sense. And I think for both those players, Mavs are also 3-1. They won tonight. Klay didn't have a big game, but the trade or swap, so to speak, has proved beneficial for both players. Hield doesn't need the ball. Kuminga needs the ball. And so tonight, where Pajemski, I guess Waters, evolved into a shooter, but the ball-dominant players is pretty much Pajemski and Kuminga. So I thought this was going to be a big game for him. So the fact that he was benched was very surprising. But as we heard, it was just to get him into the right combinations to ideally feature his skill set. And it didn't work at first. I thought Kuminga was playing similar to how he played the first 3 games, which is tentative, was playing kind of ISO. His handle it still needs some work in my opinion, but overall he was able to use his athleticism to get to the free throw line. 4 free throws, most on the team. He can not necessarily get to the line at will, but I thought when Jonathan Kuminga, and this has sort of always been the case, when he allows the game to slow down and just kind of read and react, he plays a lot better. And that's kind of my larger point for the benching, because I don't think it's something that is going away. I think Jonathan Kuminga is coming off the bench to stay. The question is who, when Curry and Wiggins returns, joins them in the starting lineup. And I feel like the candidate is obviously Buddy Hield. So if you're essentially swapping those 2 players, I think, one, it makes Kuminga, a decent six-man scoring option, which is what Hield would have been anyways as a gunner. Although I still like Hield coming off the bench, but I understand if they want to move into the starting rotation. How does Kuminga respond in a contract year to going from being a starter to moving to the bench? How do the Warriors plan to use him? I think it indicates to me that Kerr may not give up on the Wiggins-Kuminga duo, but I do think it indicates to me that he's not going to force it. Like, if they're playing well together, they're obviously going to play together, right? They both will play a lot of minutes probably. But on nights where one of them doesn't have it going, Kerr is not going to give them a super long leash. So that's what I take away from that pairing. And in general, I also wonder, I wonder what the Warriors' plan is for Kuminga this year. It's not something that's really defined through the first 4 games. I think they tried to give him the benefit of the doubt in the starting lineup. Didn't work out, though they won a couple of games. And so now they're trying to figure out how to best use him off the bench. It kind of similar to what they did at the end of last season, or Kerr did at the end of last season. And, I don't want to look at it as stunting his growth. What I think Kerr and what he has tried to do since really midway through last season, he's prioritized defense. And prioritizing defense means prioritizing Draymond at the 4. And that's right now where Kuminga is probably at his best. And so I think when he comes off the bench, he's able to play more of the 4, which honestly is not a bad thing for a couple reasons. Number one, it helps JK individually. Number two, I think it can also suppress Draymond's minutes. And sure, in big games against big opponents, that's, you're going to need Draymond to play. He's their best defensive player, bar none. But in a game that, you're winning by a lot, Portland, Utah, tonight, by the end, you don't have to play Draymond more than 30 minutes if you don't need to. Draymond, I think, played 23 and a half through the first 3 games, or averaged. He doesn't have to play 30-plus. Curry doesn't have to play 30-plus due to the depth that's on this roster. And I think Kuminga coming off the bench and using him more at the 4, which he probably is, at least offensively so far in his young career, that will also help Draymond, because Draymond is at his best when he's at the 4 alongside a true center. And that's Trace Jackson Davis or Kevon Looney, or, whichever one. I think Looney played more than TJD did tonight because, that lineup was rolling. But Trace Jackson Davis needs to be in the starting lineup because it makes the Warriors better defensively. The 2-man combination was their best defensive lineup last year. Pardon me. And it is, again, at least early on so far this season. So Kerr is prioritizing defense, and I think he's allowing the offense to kind of figure itself out. And the offense, to me, will always be a math game. It's always going to be how many threes that we can get up. And tonight, the threes turned from bad to good. And none more so than Buddy Hield missing 8 of his first 9 and then making his final 9. So as we kind of wind down here on Warriors Wrap-Up, want to remind everybody that tomorrow, pretty much same time, same place, Pelicans, Warriors, Chase Center. Going to be 6 o'clock, Warriors live. Mark Grandy will have you. I'm out tomorrow. I'll see you on Saturday for the beginning of the road trip in Houston, which should be an interesting matchup between a rip-and-run team and the Rockets, who, I don't know, off to an uneven start this year, against a Warriors team that has a chance to stack some W's. They have a chance to go 4-1. They can get greedy now, and that's the benefit of winning the first of a back-to-back. You can go get greedy. And so I wonder how, number one, the Warriors will play tomorrow. Do we see more Lindy Waters III? Is Wiggins back with Curry being out? Is Melton back? How does that impact the rotation? Also, what kind of adjustments do the Pelicans make? Do they play as individual and ISO ball as they did tonight? Do they try and move the ball around a little more? Do they switch things defensively the way they did tonight? Because I thought that also lended itself to the Warriors' ball movement. The Warriors had 34 assists and 7 turnovers. Like, anytime you have that assist-to-turnover ratio, you're generally going to kill teams, especially if you have 34 assists on 46 makes. That's a lot of passing. That's a lot of probably good shots for Golden State. So they moved the ball very effectively tonight through the last 3 quarters. They shot the hell out of the basketball through the final 3 quarters, going 19 for 33, I think, through the final 3 periods. And basically just got whatever they wanted. They were patient, they were effective, and everybody made a basket except for Kyle Anderson, who, by the way, was 0 for 9, 0 for 6 from 3. That'll hopefully come up. But he was a +9. Kyle Anderson had 5 steals tonight, by the way. So Slomo's not a guy that's going to light up the scoreboard, but don't let him fool you. He's a good basketball player, just like the Warriors have on this roster. They have a lot of good basketball players, and it's going to be someone's night every given night. Tonight, it was Lindy Waters III, Buddy Hield. Tomorrow, could be Moses Moody. The night after, could be Jonathan Kuminga. Could be Wiggins when he returns. Obviously, Curry's going to have his hand in this. But the Golden State Warriors and the vibes are good at 3-1 because they are playing team basketball. And I'm glad that it proved itself to be, at least for a night, sustainable against a Pelicans team that last year was a top 6 seed. And I'm sure his aspirations to be so again. So, in the meantime, big thank you to everybody back in our studio. Big thank you to Cameron Williams, our network coordinator here for 95.7 The Game. Big thank you to Chris O'Connell, I believe, back there cutting up. Carter Chickering also checked in. Not sure if he was back cutting, but shout out to everybody back in the studio cutting the Golden State Warriors tonight and helping us out here on Warriors Wrap-Up. Live from Chase Center, my name is Evan Giddings, signing off after the Golden State Warriors one final time defeat the New Orleans Pelicans 124-106, 3-1. We'll see if they can get greedy and wrap up the back-to-back with 2 dubs tomorrow. In the meantime, take it easy. Enjoy the rest of your evening. Go Dubs.
For the first time after the shooting, it was crippling, but it had to be preserved.
In response to the Pulse nightclub shooting that affected